Hello viewers, it is me, Simon George, from the stream of the Modern Store Championships at Athena. I'm joined by Alex Moore.
Hello, Simon.
I'm joined by Stephen Hibbler. And welcome to Commander Talks.
Templar Talks.
Oh shit, yeah. Welcome to
Okay. So that I feel is the perfect introduction.
welcome to Templar Talks.
You couldn't have done that better. That's what we want. Obviously, we're moving from streaming live on Twitch. We will still be streaming live on Twitch. We're going to be doing a lot of event coverage. Quick plug, because it's the start of the episode and I like to do that. The WPN qualifiers at Athena Games will be live streamed on Twitch on the 13th and 14th of August. 13th of August will be Pioneer, 14th of August will be Modern. There'll be full commentary and top table coverage. In addition to that, this video won't be up in time for that, so don't worry about that. But we will also be doing other coverage before this video goes up that you don't need to worry about because you'll already have watched it. Hopefully. But yeah, we're moving to more video format YouTube content, pre-recorded, so we can hopefully have it a little bit better quality. There won't be as many audio issues. Hopefully this all sounds fine, and you can see Simon is showcasing our new microphone system on his signature tie.
It's not a furry ball bag, it is the microphone.
It is indeed. It is. There are no furry ball bags on show, at least as far as you're aware.
Under the table though. Oh.
That's
Business up top, fun downstairs.
Yeah, that's the Patreon exclusive content. Yeah.
That's the other camera you can't see.
Yes. Yeah. Pay like, $6.69 to access the additional camera angle. But yeah, so we're bringing you Templar Talks from and I feel I'll keep the theme up.
Location.
Yeah, an undisclosed location in a basement somewhere, but obviously we are at our home of Athena Games. Shout out Athena Games for letting us film here. It is a fantastic LGS. You definitely want to try it out. It is our favourite LGS in the country. Well, it's mine anyway. I don't know about you, Simon. Would you say it's your favourite LGS in the country?
It's not. It is Athena Games. It's definitely my favourite LGS in the country. I've been coming to Athena since the old shop and love every shop, and the staff are alright.
Could you say it's like a Stockholm syndrome then?
Yes.
Like you're kind of imprisoned.
Yeah.
Nice.
Can we cut that bit? I feel like that's a bit too fucking deep for like people out there.
Yeah. Yes.
Simon was not seen for weeks after because of thought crimes.
Anyway, somewhat back on topic. Today we are talking Flesh and Blood. Simon is one of the only local Magic players that has started playing Flesh and Blood alongside myself. I think it's synonymous with the Flesh and Blood community, at least in my experience, that it's basically pissed off ex-Magic players, for the most part. People that have become sick of the game for one reason or another, be it commercial or community-based or whatever it may be. I don't know specifics.
Power creep.
Power creep's a big one.
Power creep, a lot of them were because of the way the competitive events spun. A lot of them were because they got banned from Magic, so they needed to do something else.
Yeah. There's a lot of animosity, I think, from Fab players to MTG players in particular. But
they're not happy communities. They don't get along.
I got into Fab because I shit you not, I had an idea for a card game. I was like, what if it's like a fighting game where the cards you played were like punches and blocks and stuff, and then Fab did it, and I was like, that's pretty alright. Let's give that a go.
They're saying that Legendary Story Studio stole your intellectual property, Simon.
I'm just saying I should have worn my tinfoil hat a bit more.
I see.
Maybe they wouldn't get the ideas then.
Yeah, that makes sense. You do have to make sure to have your tinfoil hat firmly on before you leave the house in the morning.
Yeah.
It's usually for the best.
Stops the chemtrails.
Yeah, it does. And that pesky 5G.
Don't get me started on the 5G.
So basically, for those that don't know, Legend Stories Studios, I don't actually know if the creator, I think his name is James something.
He's just James. He was the first and only James. James.
I think it's. I'm gonna quickly look it up because I don't want to say. I think it's James White, but I don't know if it is. Okay, LSS Data Systems. That is definitely not.
It doesn't sound like. Richard Garfield. I've got to be honest, Richard Garfield's more catchy because it's got the name of the cat in it, Garfield.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
James White.
Okay, it is James White.
Is he related to Jack White from the White Stripes?
I wouldn't imagine so, no.
That'd be pretty crazy if they were.
So...
Off on a tangent though, did you know, guy who owns Games... One of the guys who started Games Workshop was called Steve Jackson.
Okay.
The guy who made Munchkin is called Steve Jackson.
Is it the same Steve Jackson?
Well, I'm getting there. And the guy who wrote some adventure books, do you remember the old adventure books which were like turn to page 35 and it's like you
Choose your own
seduce the
adventure
dragon?
book.
Yeah, choose your own
dude,
adventure books.
I didn't get beaten up at school.
They were written by Steve Jackson, and for the longest time I was convinced they must be the same Steve Jackson because there can't be three people called Steve Jackson in the same kind of hobby sphere. Nah, three different Steve Jacksons.
Shit.
So that's it. If you want to get successful
Mental.
at making a board game, he's called Steve Jackson.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. That does make a lot of sense. But yeah, no, back to LSS
Flesh and Blood, yeah,
Flesh
sorry.
and Blood. No. So I don't actually know. I'm not going to look into him enough to find out now if the guy had a background in TCGs. I don't think he did. I don't think it's like Keyforge or whatever where, gone from one game to another.
Existed.
It kind of doesn't anymore.
It was a fun idea.
It's on hold.
It was a really good idea from Richard Garfield.
It's a good idea, but it's not sustainable because the sustainability in trading card games is to get people addicted to them.
Yeah.
I don't
Like
even think
as
it was a good
bad
idea.
It
that
was.
is.
It's a good idea. It works almost at a competitive level. It works almost exclusively as a sealed format,
Yeah.
which
that's
is
like-
it's fine.
It was a fun idea for like maybe a laugh with mates, but a game where like your competitive thing came down to opening a pack. Yeah, luck. Like
Yeah.
I know there's an element with luck with everything, but like when the whole point of it was like, do I get lucky and pull the deck Arse Blaster 3000, or do I get Bob from the Chippy as my commander or whatever? Luck is just too much there.
Yeah. I think that's the whole thing with sealed in general, right? Like, draft is always going to be that slightly more very much more competitive format because you can at least
Yeah.
craft a deck.
Yeah.
There's a skill element in it.
Isn't dog
in
shit.
some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't draft for shit. I'll put that out there.
Really?
Yeah, I'm terrible at draft.
Yeah, I'm terrible at
I
sealed.
enjoy sealed.
I'm limited in general. I just suck.
I do
okay.
me and the lovely member of staff here, Chris. We remain undefeated in two-headed draft for the two-headed drafts we've done.
How many have you done?
We have done 3.
Oh, okay.
First one we came first.
Okay.
Second one we came first. Third one we're the only ones who showed up.
So you came first.
So we came first. So we successfully are the...
There are some draws in there. I
Undefeated.
just want to clarify. There are some draws, and there's a tournament that didn't fire.
No, we didn't draw. I don't think we drew.
No.
It's better than my record with you. Every two-headed draft I've done with you, we've lost.
Well,
What, every
it's
game?
because we're both suck at drafts. Simon.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, one of them was Battle Bond, and we got like Will and Rowan Kenrith as our promo. So
Yeah,
like,
that's fair.
we'd have to be like mega brain dead to ruin that.
I don't know. I know we're kind of on a tangent here, but I've always found with draft and sealed, as long as you pick a strat that's fairly low to the ground and aggressive, I don't think you can be that bad.
No.
I don't know. At least go even 2 and 2 or whatever.
Yeah.
What
but
am I
again,
draft?
That depends a lot on the draft format.
Okay.
Some draft formats are crazy aggressive. I remember Gate Crash draft was just mono 2-drops. That was basically the only way to draft the format well. But there have definitely been some draft formats that are a lot slower.
I'm trying to think of what I've drafted. I've drafted Throne and drafted and sealed Throne, MH2, Double Masters 2, Time Spiral Remastered, and then every pre-release between Throne and...
Sure.
I just don't enjoy draft. I bet I should be yawning. Sorry, guys. I'm bad at it, and I don't enjoy it. Simple as. Enough said. Bad at draft. Don't enjoy it. Enough said.
So we have our
I love sealed though. Sealed's good fun.
Yeah, I like sealed as well.
Good old pre-release. You go there.
The pre-release is always
I
good
still
fun.
remember the best pre-release I did was Neon Kamigawa Dynasty Kamigawa Neon Dynasty pre-release, and night before went out. Pretty messy. Woke up the next day, was like, I have to do something with my day, otherwise it's a waste. Go to not MFL. That's modern foreign language. This is how traumatic it was for me. Go to Athena Games, hungover as hell. I did not think I'd make it to the end of the day. come first at the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty pre-release, sealed pre-release on the Saturday. Go home, jobs are good, and wallow in self-pity for the rest of the day because I'm hungover as hell.
That's fair.
It's basically what I did for the Kamigawa game day. Basically exactly the same thing.
Yeah, Kamigawa was a cool set for sure. I enjoyed Kamigawa. I quite like Nuka Penna was a bit too slow, I think.
I think it helped my promo as also the Wandering Emperor.
I mean,
that did help.
That
helped a lot.
Yeah.
That card was broken.
Yeah, that card is very strong.
I don't think we'd have done it without to be honest.
Should we talk about Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, we should probably talk about Flesh and Blood. That's definitely a thing. Oh dear. Okay. So Flesh and Blood. Back to the actual topic at hand. What is it that kind of drew you to Flesh and Blood? Like, what was it that... I know, obviously, you say it's kind of similar to a concept you came up with.
Yeah, you were also playing it and you kept banging on about it, so I was like, I'll give it a go.
Yeah.
I also like... I'm a big fan of samurai movies, like Seven Samurai, Throne of Blood, Yojimbo sequel that I forgot its name of. I would
General Samurai.
Samurai.
The Kurosawa movies. Yeah, and you see the samurai in this game. There kind of is, not really, they're more ninjas, but I was like, it's pretty cool. It's just a different game. It's a very solid game. It's nice because it's very different from Magic. I feel like Magic is very unique in its way of having a resource like lands that you have to play. I've not actually found another card game like that. I'm sure somebody in the comments to this will be like, well, actually, this card game was like that, and it's like I've never.
What, you mean land-based?
Yeah, land-based, or like an equivalent to lands. No,
Pokemon works differently.
Pokemon works differently.
So
I thought you had energy in play.
Well, no, you play your Pokemon and you attach energy to them. It's like
you use the energy attached to the Pokemon to do the Pokemon's attacks.
It's almost like activated ability.
It's almost like I'm with you.
It's almost like if activated abilities, you had to put land underneath.
Oh, okay. I don't know why I thought that was.
Yeah. So for reference, all games have resource systems. Flesh and Blood's resource system is discarding cards from your hand to get resources.
Well,
no,
not discarding. Pitching cards from your hand to pay their pitch.
It's effectively discarding cards. The difference is
remove cards from your hand.
Yeah, they go to the bottom of your deck when you pitch them, so you get the resource back basically.
Yeah. Whereas the Magic system is that you have lands in your decks which you can play one per turn, and they produce you these resources that you can spend to cast spells.
Vampire: The Eternal Struggle is your life total. You spend your life to get these cards out. That's another game by Richard Garfield, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is, yeah.
Interestingly, Richard Garfield never did a system like lands again because he realised it doesn't really work.
Well, that's the thing. It works really well for Magic, but everything that comes after Magic, trying to get the popularity of Magic, has tried to fix the resource system. Because the issue with the Magic resource system is the variance of it. Because obviously you're reliant on drawing the cards you need at the right time, so there's an insanely high variance. A lot of the other systems remove that variance from having by doing a couple of things. There's two obvious ones, which are Force of Will card game and Dragon Ball. Both have similar kind of things. Force of Will has a different deck that you has your mana in that you draw from at the start of the game, or you play them from the top of your deck by tapping your hero, I think, or something similar. But basically guarantees it in a similar way to like Hearthstone. Dragon Ball, you play cards from your hand face down or backwards, and they act as your lands. So everything in the entire game is lands as well as being, or can produce mana as well as being.
I guess Dragon Ball and Flesh and Blood are kind of similar in that way, in that the cards double up.
Yeah,
as resources.
Yeah, we saw those play. No, that was Vice Swords with the climax zone. Ooh.
Is it Vice Swords with the
Vice
climax?
Swords had the climax.
Vice Swords has a climax zone. Yeah.
You got some suspect playmats of that.
That's actually. We may as well get onto that subject now. Obviously, we're not drawing a winner for a giveaway because this is not live. We'll be drawing our winners in the Templar Rambles live podcast, which will be midway through the month.
Oh, can I be on that?
You can at some point, maybe.
Sweet.
We'll see. Probably not.
Oh, fuck.
But for this episode, I would like to do a bonus giveaway. We do have some as Vice Swords playmat that we'll give away.
Buy a Vice Swords playmat.
Us three and the rest of the Templar guys will sign it, and Simon will sign the climax zone.
The only other worse playmat than Vice Swords playmats was the.
This whole thing's being cut. No. Yeah, thanks, Tobin.
No, yeah, well, we'll cut some. We'll cut some of that. I feel that's going to be a theme of the day.
Fuck, I forgot about that.
Okay, so also another thing to note here as I just butt in randomly, there's probably going to be a few cuts today because we're trying to clean up.
Trying a new thing.
Yeah, we're trying to do it so it's more fluid. So rather than just like us going on these tangents, we're trying to cut it down into a digestible format that you can listen to without having us just go on rambles about God knows what for ages.
We're on Flesh and Blood, weren't we? Oh yeah, so Flesh and Blood. Going back to that, yeah, it's got Magic had a resource system. It's like the only resource system I've seen of it, and then you discussed how Dragon Ball's kind of similar.
Yeah.
And Force of Will was kind of similar. Also, the thing I enjoy about Flesh and Blood is because it is like a fight when you look at it. It's kind of like those kung fu movies where, you know, I play a Fadek who's a fire ninja, and he comes in with his sword and he's like, do, and the opponent's like blocking and stuff, and sometimes the attacks go through, and it's quite cool. It's a very unique concept that I haven't seen in other card games at all, which I quite like, because usually in card games you're summoning creatures and they're there to protect you. You know, you've got like Dancing Goblin who's there to like protect you from their hippogriff or something.
Yeah, well, I guess it's like Hearthstone where you have to like attack the cards first, or like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of systems where the cards get in the way, whereas Flesh and Blood is typically that you're mainly...
Yeah.
If you're playing an aggro deck, you typically don't defend that much. It's more about going for the throat.
It does suffer from, though, it's quite restrictive in the deck building, because you are restricted to having to... If you're playing a ninja, so I play Fae, as I said before, who is a draconic ninja. So I'm stuck to playing either draconic cards or ninja cards or draconic ninja
I still think
cards.
it's Phi.
It might be Phi. FAI, is it Phi or is it Fae? Answers on a postcard.
Hot takes indeed.
But it's restrictive that I can only play ninja cards, generic cards, draconic.
But isn't that restrictive like Magic, right?
With
like
I was about to say like the mana system is restrictive. Yeah. It's interesting. I think one of the issues it might suffer from in the long run is, and this is probably why Magic has survived so long, is, and I'm going to say it, and like you guys are going to be like, but this and that, but like no, Magic, like at least in the beginning, was quite a generic setting. So like you could have anything in it to a degree, and it's still like that. Even though you've gone to different planes and they're themed around stuff, it's generic enough that like there's going to be a bit in it to a degree for everybody. Like if you like dragons, there'll be a dragon somewhere. If you like dogs, there might be a dog somewhere. Well, I think the reason some other card games have not survived as well, I know people will say, oh, but that one's been brought back and that, but it's nowhere near as popular as it was or as popular as Magic has ever been, like Vampire the Eternal Struggle or Netrunner, or even Flesh and Blood, is that they are quite restricted in what they can do. So like Vampire the Eternal Struggle is obviously based off Vampire Masquerade with the World of Darkness, and it's like, even if the game's amazing to you, but you don't like the kind of lore and you don't like the aesthetic, you're not going to play it. And Magic has that thing where it's always generic enough that it's easy enough to get into, and then there's varies that like you'll have your favourite set. Like I really like Innistrad because it reminds me of the game Bloodborne and kind of like the gothic horror. And I appreciate some other people don't like that, but because they only do it for one set, people know that a set in the future may be something they like a lot more. And like looking at Netrunner, if you don't like Cyberpunk, you're not going to play Netrunner. So it already cuts off a huge amount of people who don't like that.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, Magic's been described to me as like a game engine rather than an actual game. Where you have like, you've got the actual engine of the game is like the number of cards you have and the lands and that kind of thing is, and then you can pick and choose which way you want to play the game. I think I've probably mentioned this before on a previous thing, but that's because Magic's existed for almost 30 years at this point, and it's got loads of different formats and all that kind of stuff. So you can basically pick and choose whatever you want from it.
The lore in Magic.
Yeah, but I think that's pigeonholing Flesh and Blood too much. Because we're talking about a game that's been around for 2 years and they've already been to like 3 planes or like the equivalent.
I agree with the other two that Simon brought up, definitely with the Vampire and Netrunner, but obviously I've not looked into Flesh and Blood that much. For reference, these guys play Flesh and Blood, I just play, I guess relevant, I just play Magic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be the case that Flesh and Blood is going to get into that position at some point. But from the outside looking in, it looks like similar to Magic, just generic fantasy setting.
Yeah, I mean, I'd agree
Yeah.
with that. I don't think there's too much danger there of it being like super specific.
But I think
You know.
I think to a degree that's what it's going to suffer from, because even though I said Magic's done so well because it's generic fantasy setting.
It's
I
hard
think-
to have another one that does
Yeah,
it.
Yeah,
it's going to be
sure.
hard to have that, but also because in Flesh and Blood you're playing as a character, and they're doing the punches, they're swinging their swords. There's going to be a degree where like it gets boring, where it's like, oh, we've got another knight. Oh, we've got another ninja.
Yeah, there's
They're
going to be
not-
power creep. There's
Yeah.
going to be cards that are functionally similar but
While in Magic, because you're
work
not
the same way and that kind of thing.
because you're playing these creatures, you're not like playing punches and stuff. You're just going to always have like, oh, I can play a dragon, but I'm also going to play a bear. I'm going to play a were-rabbit. It varies. While
Typically, though, competitively, there are fairly structured archetypes.
this
that
is what
aren't-
Magic.
Yeah, like
But
Yeah.
the archetypes are always changing. Like Standard changes like every season. Like tribal decks come and tribal deck go, and then like
I'm thinking of it
things
more
go-
in the way though that at least as far as it has been so far, Flesh and Blood appears to be an eternal format. Like in terms
Yeah.
of Blitz, so Blitz is kind of a 40 card deck, a quicker game. You can
Yeah.
only have two copies of each card. Classic Constructed is a 60 card deck, 3 of each card.
But
So
I think that's because Flesh. So I think another Flesh and Blood issue is its longevity. It's currently, as you said, it's an eternal format that like every set is legal at the moment. But there will become a point where, and because it's happened with other games, notably thinking about it, it's happened with LCGs, living card games. So like, not Vampire, L5R, Legend of the Five Rings, and Netrunner when that was a living card game, not a TCG. That as it goes on, the older sets and the older cards are harder to get hold of. So either Flesh and Blood's going to have to make the older cards
to
irrelevant.
but to
or-
throw under that theory into the dust, or however you want to put it, Yu-Gi-Oh is an eternal format.
And suffers from this problem.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh suffers from this problem. as
Yu-Gi-Oh
well.
doesn't suffer from this problem because Yu-Gi-Oh lent into the power creep situation.
Yeah, so that was one of
It
the. I was
did-
going to say there's two situations they can
But
do.
they do often revive archetypes by printing new support
They
for them.
revive archetypes by printing new support, which makes the old cards spike hilariously in value if they're relevant for that thing. And because every old card is legal, Yu-Gi-Oh's been around for almost as long as Magic has, 25 probably years at this point. Cards that were printed 20 years ago or whatever are still expensive, and actually that's one of the issues that are coming along in the moment, because there are multiple different Yu-Gi-Oh's recently started exploring different formats, that kind of thing, and there are a couple of old formats, one from 2005, one from 2010 I think, that are
that
actually Goat format and something else. I think it was I've forgotten what it was called now, but those formats are played at some points in tournaments.
Oh.
But because those formats because all the cards were printed 20 years ago, if Goat format is an example,
Yeah.
it's from 2005.
Goat was dirt cheap at one point because it wasn't a supported format, but if it's supported now, it's obviously
Yeah,
going to jump
and
up in price.
A lot of the cards from that format have increased in price massively just because they're not
Easily accessible.
Easily accessible.
Well, even
But-
look at Magic. Some of the cards from previous sets, like take Mishra's Bulbul, which is an uncommon from what set was it originally printed?
Cold Snap.
Cold Snap. It's an uncommon from Cold Snap.
But
They're
surely
about
it can,
£7 and £8 each.
surely it can be solved by reprints. There's not a reserve list
It
situation.
can be solved by reprints. It entirely depends on how Legend Story Studios wants to go about it. And in the past, they've had some worrying business practices so far that would make me think that maybe they're more in favour of the reserve list,
Let's-
as indeed you are,
Let's
Stephen,
hear the
than a different.
Let's hear these business practices, because that is one of the topics we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I think this is one of the... So I'm going to try and put Alex on blast here a little bit,
Yeah.
in that I think this is a perception, like, everyone we've spoken to in the Magic community is fairly negative on Flesh and Blood because of how it's been portrayed.
Yeah.
And as much as I think he's a great... what's the word? Flying the banner for the game and increasing its popularity. I think that Rudy from Alpha Investments has been involved from early. That has also shone kind of a dark light on it because people think there's market manipulation, etc.
Yeah, I for sure think Rudy's part of the problem with the perception of the game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
Also, the professor advertised that at one point.
he did, yeah, but he came in a bit later, and I think the
Do you think we
professor.
could get a boxing match, celebrity boxing match, me and the professor?
I definitely
Charity.
don't think we could.
Yeah,
I'd love
seems
to.
a stretch, doesn't
It
it?
does
What about
seem
for charity?
maybe one
Let's
day.
make it happen. Professor, if you're out there.
Can't come at me. A bare-chested knife fight in a back alley in Norwich somewhere.
For charity. Let's add that.
Yeah, so yeah, like I think the professor though has a bit more integrity publicly than Rudy does.
Yeah.
And I think that's ironic because again, I know I've come out saying I support the reserve list, etc. But I actually think Rudy has a lot of integrity in that he is just honest and is like says he hoards these products.
Yeah,
you know
sure.
what I mean? Like it is market manipulation in a way, but it's very transparent market manipulation.
Yeah.
So I kind of respect that. But yeah, so I think
doesn't
that's
come
where
across very well.
No. I fully understand that that's where a lot of the issue comes from.
I think, doesn't the reserve list exist just because at one point, was it, like, this is my theory on it, like, Wizards knew that people had, like, these cards were expensive and Wizards knew that people had financially invested in them.
I mean,
and they knew if they
the
reprinted
reserve
them, would
list
piss
was
people off.
effectively community driven.
Yeah.
Ironically, given the
Yeah.
situation we're in today, people wanted the reserve list to,
Yeah.
and
To ensure the value of their cards.
I'm an
People
advocate.
invested in it like a job.
Yeah, I'm an advocate of that as well, in that I believe that Magic is an expensive... I agree with reprints, because I think the game should be somewhat accessible
Yeah.
to everyone, but I think there's a danger in how many reprints you do. So it's like fetch lands, in my opinion, and I know it's a controversial one, I do not think fetch lands should ever be below £10. Because I feel that if you bought into them at the height of 50, 60,
Yeah.
even going to 10 is a horrendous feels bad, and you are going to regret your decision. Because it's not all Wales. Wales, you know what I mean? If you're buying from the vaults and all these like exclusive treatments and secret layers, yes, print them again. Who cares? They've got the money to lose. But when it's core game pieces that say you're 18, 19, you're in university, you've saved up and you've bought a £600 modern deck, £700 maybe more, depending
Sure.
on what deck you're playing. If that deck gets reprinted into the ground and is then worth 200, you are gonna
Be annoyed.
It's not just annoyed, but you're probably gonna sway away from Magic.
I think
There was there was the story. I don't know if we've spoken about this in a recorded situation, so I won't name any names. But I know there's a story of an Athena local who had a legacy deck stolen at a large event, and they just stopped playing Magic. It's that level of feels bad. You have lost a huge chunk
Yeah.
of investment, and it's just gone.
It's a
I think
strange
it's
thing.
different. I think it's different from that level of feels bad. I don't know if it's to that extreme.
I think, sorry, I don't want to interrupt, but I-
No, go.
So I think the game would be, like, Magic as a whole, and like any TCG would be a whole lot better if that all the cards were affordable and easily accessible. If you were coming into the game as a brand new player, because then you could play at the levels you'd want to, you could play at a competitive level and experience the game the most fun. But as a indebted player who's played it for a long time, I agree it would feel really, really bad to have these cards that you've spent a lot of money on become cheaper. I think the game would probably be a lot better if it, like, fetch lands were like dirt cheap, everything was dirt cheap, because then you could play what deck you want and you could actually play the game, if that made sense. And
Yeah.
you wouldn't have like at F&M, it's really it's quite sad to see. You wouldn't be like priced out the game and priced out of formats you enjoy. But as a, I guess it's quite a selfish attitude to a degree. Like, I've spent the money, I don't want to see it wasted now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
that's my attitude towards it. And I would almost say what they did with Challenger decks for an Eternal format like Modern, for example, they released one Modern event deck.
Yeah.
I would love them to do that as a standard unlimited reprint product and print something like an easy-ish, something like Is It Prowess? Something that's kind of aggressive but mid-rangey.
Burn.
And Burn's too aggressive and too good. I mean, a middle-of-the-road, could win an FNM, but isn't like
Sure.
a tier 0 deck. Something that will always be relevant. Like it's like Is It Prowess? It was top of the format for a while until MH2 came around.
Yeah.
But it would if you played that exact same list, it would still top 8.
It would be fine.
Like if you were competent at it, you
wouldn't.
you
I
know.
feel like that would potentially restrict Wizards from what they make in the future.
Yeah, potentially. So
yeah.
you need to pick something that's niche enough that no one cares about. That's not gonna, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it would be a hell of an R&D. How do we craft this list so we're not including cards that are going to get used elsewhere? It would be very hard to do. You'd probably have to go monocolored. There's a lot of stuff like that.
I also feel like it could potentially skew the meta a bit because people, because say they release this event deck, you'd get a lot more people into Modern.
But it's barrier. So
I know it's barrier to entry, but
this is your
how it's
argument for new
yeah,
players.
but how it would skew the meta a bit and like make the meta a bit unreliable. Or make the deck even worse in the meta is because you'd have like say 100 new Modern. These are made up numbers,
Yeah.
obviously, but you'd have 100 new Modern players, all of them playing blue-red prowess. You'd instantly know most of the meta now is blue-red prowess because of the influx of players. Your sideboard, even some of your main board, becomes now anti-blue-red prowess, thus making the decks worse. But at the same time, there'd be a lot of top 8s and a lot of even potential tournament winnings from blue-red prowess where there shouldn't be because of like, you know, the kind of expression if you throw enough shit at something it will stick finally.
Potentially, but I also think like that's the only solution you could ever do about making a game affordable for a new player versus an accomplished player.
Yeah.
I think Modern to a degree, and like I'm going to get probably a lot of hate for this, but is affordable as long as you're safe and also depends what deck you're playing. Like Burn is relatively affordable.
It's not though. It burns like 400 quid easy.
Is it mono red Burn?
Yeah, but you wouldn't play mono red.
But like,
But you would if you were just getting into the format.
Yeah, if you're just
Like,
getting into the format.
Okay.
If you're just
Mono
getting
red
into the
Burn's
format, you
decent.
don't play Blue-Red Murktide. You build Boggles or Burn or Infect
you
or
build
something.
like, and then
something
you
cheap.
a deck you
Mono
can
red.
upgrade.
I'm pretty sure mono red burn is probably at least 150.
But that's still, I think.
Nowadays.
I
You
think,
make budget choices, right? You don't play Eidolon of the Great Revel because they're so expensive.
I think
You
for
play
entry,
Soulscar Mage.
I think entry
Yeah.
format to something, 150 isn't that bad. And you guys, people are going to jump on me again for this, but take another hobby, not Magic the Gathering, unrelated to this completely, golf.
Yeah,
150
We've used golf
I
before.
find this
Golf,
very,
not even
like,
golf.
yeah.
My friend Rocco, who I've interviewed on the channel, I was just like, "You do rowing?" He was like, "Yes." I was like, "How much is it for like a rowing boat? Like, you know, not like a little wooden one,
yeah.
like $3,000,
A proper one.
Like
yeah.
$3,000 gets you like not even top tier, gets you like a good enough one.
Yeah.
And 100. And it depends on your hobby. Like, if you enjoy the game enough, the entry point of I'd say 150 for like a decent deck that can be progressed into better decks is affordable if you like the thing enough. I think it is. It does have the thing though, like a rowing boat is a lot more substantial. It's bigger. It's made out of more expensive materials than a card game where the
Yeah, but I mean, like you
prices
can
are
slap an element of R&D. Like that's one thing we haven't spoken about here. A lot of the value of Magic is the thought that goes behind it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like Apple or whoever can charge the prices they charge because
they're who they are.
But it's also because of the amount of research that goes into making the products. Like the products wouldn't be as good if they didn't have the work, right? So I don't know. I definitely think I don't want to go too much on this conversation because we have spoken about it before.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I agree. I don't think Magic is too expensive. I think hobbies are what you make them. It just is what it is.
all
Like,
hobbies are
If you want to
expensive.
watch a video on us talking about this, there's a video on the channel called Something to the Extent of Magic's Not Too Expensive, You're Just Poor, or
yeah,
something
yeah,
to
it
the equivalent.
is something like that.
Like,
Yeah,
heck it, like video games, 50 quid for like a video
no,
game.
it's 60 quid now.
Yeah,
60 quid
Yeah,
for a
for
video
like
game.
a
Anyway,
Switch game.
while we're talking about price,
Yes.
how is Flesh and Blood?
So Flesh and Blood. So the reason I brought up that whole like Magic player's perspective is although there's that perspective of LSS and Flesh and Blood, I believe and genuinely I think in terms of their actual business practices of what has happened in the existence of the game, all of the issues were actually related to being able to produce enough. It was it was basically a victim of its own success.
Sure.
In that they, a startup company.
They didn't anticipate it to be as big as it was.
Exactly, or as quickly as it is. So, as an example, if you went into a brand... So, Athena Games, I never shopped there on day one, but I would imagine on day one of Athena Games, there was not a board game wall this size, right? Like,
No, I can't.
You scale up.
Athena was never this size. It was a smaller shop.
Yeah, you scale business up. And I think that's what happened with LSS is they had this idea of alpha and beta, kind of like... exactly what Magic did, where you print a set and then you do an unlimited print run, just like Yu-Gi-Oh! I believe they do first edition and unlimited. They always used to. I think that was their vision, but the problem was the space between first edition and unlimited was too long because they couldn't afford. You know what I mean? They had to get the money in from first to pay to print second, which is obviously how
I think
it
one of the
works.
issues as well is Magic the Gathering. I don't think it was the first trading card, but it was like a card game. I might be wrong there, but it was like one of the first really big ones.
Yeah.
And they didn't anticipate how big it was going to be. No one anticipated how big it was going to be. There's stories about people, stopping at Wizard of the Coast headquarters because they need to use the loo and getting bombarded with a load of free Magic stuff. But wait, sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but now because generally people are more informed about how big things might be, they saw Flesh and Blood as a new game. They saw it as a good game. They saw it as a product that was like hard to get. People knew that if it was going to be anything like Magic, it was a worthwhile investment, and the people with the money knew that if they invested, say, 160 quid on 2 boxes, because the box was about 80. At the time, I think, they invested 160 quid on 2 boxes. Even if they only increased a little bit, they'd still make their money back. So people are now more informed now about about the prices these things go for.
And people are looking for the new big thing.
And I think that's why a lot of people have the negative opinion that they do, because the company brought out this, like the alpha and beta set, for the sake of argument, we'll call them. I don't know what they're actually called, if they were alpha and beta.
It was alpha and unlimited.
Alpha unlimited, sure. But the fact that all the communities instantly went, that's alpha, we know what alpha's like with Magic, therefore we need to stockpile this.
Yeah, and I think that's half the irony in it. That
if I could bring up another example, I'm not sure if either of you are familiar with a game called MetaZoo.
Yeah.
MetaZoo has taken the garbage business practices that are potentially there in Flesh and Blood and kicked it to a 10 or a 12 or whatever. The guy that made Flesh and Blood, MetaZoo, is a banker. He has come from a banking background. He has specifically started this game with a reserve list, explicitly, and he's just leaning into it, and it's worked for him and for his game, because MetaZoo does have this, it has this premium price, and it has all of these negative business practices that are present in other card games. They're present in Magic. I'd say they're present in Magic by accident, because of the whole reserve list thing that came out 23 years ago or whatever. But these games, seeing how popular these are now, they can put that into their core business model. And Flesh and Blood have, to an extent. And obviously, MetaZoo did deliberately and very obviously. But I think Flesh and Blood have, maybe accidentally, maybe on purpose. But it's stuff like the small print runs for initial sets, like they saw with Alpha, and the crazy scarcity of some of the game's staples. I can't remember what it's called. Is it the
equipment?
Some of the equipment.
Yeah, that is. I was going to mention that.
There's one immediately one that comes to mind. I can't remember what it's called. It's like a robe or something.
Spring tunic.
Spring tunic.
A lot of equipment is legendary, and legendaries are like 1 per box.
But the thing is, they have changed. It's 1 per case.
Oh,
usually.
one per case, and because
but they have changed that in the latest set.
Because equipment is all neutral, they can go in everything, and they should go in everything if they make a good one.
It's not all neutral.
Is that one not the
That one is neutral, yes.
Sure.
But
so that's,
we agree, it does.
Again, from a Magic perspective looking in, this tunic is one that gets brought up quite a lot. It's a neutral equipment, it can go in everything, it's legendary and mythic, legendary rarity, isn't it? They're not called mythics, they're called majestics.
Yes.
They're legendary rarities, and the last time I looked at the price, it was a good couple of £100. I don't know what it's now.
It's about 100 and something still.
It's closer to 100.
Also,
but it is usually the best choice in a competitive deck for the equipment of this type.
All depends on the deck.
Not anymore.
I feel like it gets...
Go.
It was 6 months ago.
Yeah.
There's
Or
a
a year
reason
ago,
it's expensive. But all card games have that to a degree. Like where you have to buy booster packs.
Yeah, like Meat Hook Massacre, right?
Yeah, Meat Hook Massacre.
Yeah.
But like all card games have this to a degree by having a rarity. because if like when companies like go, oh, I don't care about the secondary market, you know that's 100% a lie, because they wouldn't bother putting rarities in.
Oh, for sure.
Everything would be a common. And I know you could argue, but then draft would be terrible, this would be terrible. That is right, but Wizards, if you buy a booster pack, you know, they don't care if you set it on fire afterwards. Like,
Sure.
they make their money from people buying booster packs. But they definitely make the, like, you know, mythic, rare, uncommon, common. They make the rarity system because the secondary market is one reason why people try and get these chase cards.
But there's a difference between having... using Magic as an example,
mythic.
obviously. There's a
There's
difference between a mythic being in a draft box and something being 1 per 6
Case.
boxes.
Yeah, there's a difference,
there's a
but
difference there.
that's just still that, but ramped up to the max. That's just the mythic thing, like 1 per 5 packs, ramped up to the max.
The process of ramping up to the max is what makes it a garbage business practice. And for the record, booster packs in general, terrible business practice.
Yeah.
I do agree, but the thing, I don't know, so I think it also slightly comes down to the way decks are constructed for Flesh and Blood, and this is, I think, something we haven't discussed. The price of cards in Flesh and Blood,
It's insanely cheap.
Yeah, insanely cheap, apart from a select few, like your Command and Conquers and your Enlightened Strikes.
But even then,
they're like kind of expensive Magic card prices. They're not like, when we say expensive, we mean like modern card prices.
So
they're not too bad.
like the most expensive card outside of Equipment and Flesh and Blood is about 50 to 60
Yeah,
pounds.
50 to 60.
It then drops off to about 25,
Like,
then drops off to like 15. So the top 3, there's a huge variance. Like obviously
Sure.
CNC is high, but the others are not. And typically most decks, sans equipment, will be comfortably under £100.
Yeah.
Like very comfortably.
Like my Fey deck, I built apart from my Fey deck, yeah, I think I spent 90 on, because everything for Fey or Fi came from the new set. So I just bought a box and got everything I needed, and what I didn't need, I was able to trade for. But if I wasn't able to trade for, I'd have spent like maybe an extra 30 quid.
But realistically, I don't think if you'd bought those singles, it probably would be like less than half of that.
Yeah, it'd have been less.
Like,
than
obviously,
half of
having
that.
the rest of the box is nice to
Yeah.
build
Sure.
other decks,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
The issue
that's the reality of it.
The issue does come from, as you said, the equipment, where equipments are like 100 quid each for one.
But I think that's the thing that
But
they're
like, you only
learning.
need one. That's the thing.
Yeah.
As well, you only need one. Like in Fey, I run Tiger Claw Shuko, and I only need 1 Tiger Claw Shuko. While in Magic, my modern deck Death Shadow, I need a monkey called Ragavan. They're 60 quid each. I have to buy 4 of them for the deck to be optimal. So it's kind of the thing of like, Magic, I'm paying 4 times 60 quid, which is 180.
240.
Fuck, yeah. 240, which is a lot, but like it doesn't feel as much because I'm buying 1 Ragavan at a time, which is a month, which is 60 quid a month. While in Flesh and Blood,
180 is what you spent already because you need 1 more month.
yeah, in Flesh, If Helena's watching this, these are all theoretical numbers, and no money was spent on any Ragavans. I pulled them all from packs, which were under a fiver. If my partner is watching, but. All theoretical numbers, but this Tiger Claw Shukaro, which I traded for, was... no, I actually traded for this Tiger Claw because I pulled a different equipment someone needed. This is true here.
But it's like a £100 card, right?
If I wanted to buy it, it's 100 quid. Spending 60 quid on 1 card feels bad, because at the end of the day it is cardboard, but it feels less bad than spending 100 quid on a piece of cardboard.
Yeah. You mean like...
For Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
4 times.
So 60 quid 4 times... for some reason, with the mental gymnastics, feels less bad than spending 100 quid 1 time.
Yeah. I get that. I think the main thing, though, is...
But you don't even need the equipment, because like there's like replacements which do...
Yeah, that are good.
Sure.
That are good.
Yeah.
But I think the core thing here, and this actually struck me to... this is from a recent video Magic put out on Dominaria when they were opening Antiquities. And that was a player said
Legends.
Sorry, Legends.
Opening Legends.
Not Antiquities. Other rare sets.
Yeah.
That player said that Legends was a myth when he started playing, and when he, like, in terms of being able to find packs, and they were rare, expensive, problematic cards to get, and they started playing in Revised. So you have to think, like, if you've started playing in Revised and you remember Legends being a problem, like, it's it's within those first few years of Magic, right? That
sure,
those
absolutely.
things happen, and I think that's kind of the benefit of the doubt. I personally think you have to give a new company, unless it's WotC making it or like a huge conglomerate making it, throwing money
I can
at
understand that to an extent, because obviously Flesh and Blood's only been around 2 years or whatever,
Yeah.
but they have the benefit of looking at what companies have done in the past.
it. But if you overshot and it wasn't successful, you would bankrupt yourself on the first set.
Sure.
So I think that's the thing. So, as an example, the last 3 sets, have been incredibly easy to get. No problems buying the boxes.
Yeah.
No problems buying the products. They've also stopped doing the first edition and limited print runs because they've decided it is a bad business practice, and they're literally just going with one print run effectively per set. So they've already solved that. They're doing History Pack, which is like a merge of previous sets, and effectively they're printing them into the ground in a different border. So I kind of feel they're trying to fix the mistakes already, and they're a very young company, which I think is like
Then they're taking
You know what I
good
mean.
stand.
My only problem I've had with Flesh and Blood mainly so far is the fact that their last set was held up for a couple of weeks at customs or something. So weekends where we meant to have pre-releases, we didn't have pre-releases.
But can you blame?
I don't think that's got anything
I
to do
think
with the
you have to
company.
blame. Like, so
It's because
I'm.
they're smuggling coke in the pre-release packs.
If only. What's it
The
called?
real win. You wouldn't get a flame scale plate. You'd get like a pound of cocaine. That was your real win in the pack.
I think
Allegedly.
I think the main issue is more not to get into politics, but it's been a very systematic trend since Brexit that product releases have been delayed, not just in TCGs, but like across the board. It doesn't matter what you're into,
And
stuff that
it
comes
is
out.
fairly universal with TCGs.
Yeah,
Like, there's almost everything has been delayed.
Yeah, and it's not like you have to think as well. I'm not naming names because I don't want targets on back, but I believe that pre-Brexit there used to be several distribution companies that were based outside of the UK that you could order product from, but due to taxes now effectively you kind of have less options, and those options seem to be performing less than
Suboptimally.
adequately. Yes, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a combination of factors. Like I don't think it's specifically Flesh and Blood that issue is with. It's a fair
They're
point.
definitely improved. I agree, because when I got into the hobby only fairly recently, but when I got into it, the latest set, which was Everfest, you could just buy packs relatively easily. Sets before that were a little bit harder, but now are very easy to get hold of. And reminded the name. Uprising, the latest set, has been incredibly easy to get hold of. There doesn't seem to be an issue at the moment at all with being easy to find, and I feel like they've probably learnt from their early mistakes of not making enough to now making enough, and being, as a company, knowing that they will not bankrupt themselves by overproducing it.
Yeah.
I think the good thing as well is like with Spring Tunic is a good example. The first version came out in cold foil. It's kind of like their super rare treatment. They reprinted it again, didn't do it in cold foil. So just to preface this, Flesh and Blood have said they will do no reserve list and that they will not reprint things they say they won't. So they've said every game piece will be reprinted, but not in its original treatment, effectively.
Right.
So cold foil in the first set in Alpha goes for an astronomical amount of money, kind of like Black Lotus level of money.
Sure.
They reprinted it in non-foil. They reprinted it again in white border. They've kept to what they've said they'll do in terms of they are not redoing these. And I think
that's the right way to do it, because
That is the right way to do it.
because
for sure.
the cold foil one still retains a lot of value while making the product still accessible to other people.
Yeah, and although obviously I know this is kind of a meme, me saying this, because I know it won't affect prices, and I actually don't think there's anything wrong with it, but as an example, unlike WotC, who find a factory with sealed Legends booster boxes and decide to open them all and put the cards in booster packs, which doesn't break the reserve list promise, but it is a little bit against the spirit of it, really, if we're honest, because you're giving it to consumers again.
Sure.
I don't believe they've broken the reserve list.
No,
but
no, no,
I'm
I
interested-
don't think they've broken it. I don't think
I'm
they've
interested
broken it.
because this isn't the first time they've done it. If you look back at Zendikar
Yeah,
with their
yeah.
priceless treasures, but I'm interested to see people comparing potentially the old card stock of Legends cards to the cards in the new things, their card stock. See if there's anything.
I don't think.
I don't know. I find
There's
it,
no conspiracy
I find
theory
it a bit
there.
No.
sus. They've found a load of products. in the
There's
factory.
nothing there. There is no way. It's not worth the hassle they would
No,
get
absolutely
and the credibility they'd lose. But my point is, it's kind of, it's not really breaking it, but it's kind of cheating on the test a little bit. You're bending the rule a little.
I can see that.
But this isn't, as we said, the first time they've done it. They did it with the priceless treasures.
I think
Zendikar.
I even think then it's still a little
Yeah, there
feels bad.
were probably similar things that happened then.
Does it?
So-
Will it? It won't affect the price that much at all, will
No,
it? though?
because
shouldn't
it's
do.
such a
Because
small amount.
there'll be more like Tabernacle. I'll take that as an example. There'll be more Tabernacles in circulation now, but they're not going to be like enough to affect the price.
Yeah, I agree.
We-
It's
we
not
have
going to
a-
affect the price. at all.
We have a customer who comes here. Well, I don't work anymore, but we had a customer who came here. Not going to mention name, but he's a lovely chap, and if he's watching this, he'll know I'm talking about him. No, this isn't smack talk or anything.
Yeah.
He worked out that I can't remember what card it is, but it's very specifically, it's like foil versions of this card. They only foiled the card like in theory X amount of times, and the print run was like X amount here. And I think it's like he, according to his maths, owns like every foil version of a certain card because of the like the in like it was a certain language. I think it was Portuguese. It was
Right. Yeah, you've got a microphone here. It's not
I'm
going to
not
do
whisper
anything.
his name,
It's not
'cause
going to
you know
do
you're
anything.
No, it doesn't even matter.
Okay.
Carry on.
But
yeah.
he did like a load of looking at it. Like they would only print this card in foil X amount of times. X amount of it was allocated to Portuguese. So he managed to like in theory get every foil copy of this Portuguese card.
Sure.
And like having the stranglehold on that hasn't affected the price at all because it's a card no one wanted in the first place. So
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting to think that. I find talking to him very fascinating because he's done this with... at one point he was doing it with Thieves Market. He was trying to get every foil Thieves Market. Was it Thieves Market? Thieves Market might not even
Yeah,
be a
but I mean
card.
to not to throw shade at anyone individually, but I think that ethos in general, although it would be cool to say I own everything of something,
Yeah.
that is kind of part of the problem of why
Yeah.
these things
Oh,
happen,
absolutely,
right?
for sure.
Like, but my main point with the reserve list stuff and putting them in packs is LSS have been very clear, kind of when they release foil promos for winners of events, they have filmed themselves destroying the excess. Because they
Yeah,
are
I've
very
seen
much
them.
like,
Yeah.
we are not going to hold these, we're not going to pull them out of a warehouse in 10 years' time and put them in packs. It is very much so far as I understand, I may be wrong here, but everything they have said they would do from the start, they've kept to. And I think that's kind of a really good sign.
For sure.
You know.
But to be fair, with them being such a new company, they can't afford the publicity not to. Like if they have negative publicity at this point, even if they lose a fraction of their player base, that's going to do a significant amount of damage to their...
I think one reason Magic
profits.
players are put off Flesh and Blood is because I think there might be a few of them, but one of the big Flesh and Blood players is a ex-Magic player who got caught cheating on camera.
I was about to bring that up.
I mentioned earlier the sort of subsect of people that do play Flesh and Blood, and one of them is banned Magic players.
Yeah.
And I said it kind of it's kind of a jokey thing, but a lot of I say a lot. It's about 4 or 5, I think, probably
We're
professional
talking
Magic
professional
players.
level Magic players.
professional Magic players who got caught cheating, started playing Flesh and Blood, and one of these guys did cheat on camera in a recorded thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't a massive cheat. It was a being a bit too aggressive about like not reminding your opponent of a missed trigger until it was too late, and then missing that trigger several times themselves and that kind of thing. But it's enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he got any negative.
I believe he won a
Things from
tournament in
Yeah.
Flesh and Blood. Like I don't think it's.
I think he's one of
Not
the
what I
top
mean.
UK players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they're very high up in the Flesh and Blood scene. So
Yeah, it's fair. But I don't.
yeah, I know what you mean. But then I suppose it's kind of
They've got to
like
do something.
it's like a driving conviction in the UK doesn't well, okay, it does cross over to the US, but doesn't cross over to a country that doesn't have the relationship that the US and the UK have. It's kind of like, say you get arrested and jump bail in the UK, you can fly to a country without extradition, and they won't do anything about it. And I think that's, I know that's a much more extreme example, but I do feel you can't police.
Oh no, for sure. I wasn't suggesting that they should police them out of flesh and blood. It's just a weird observation.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you can I don't think you can police them out. I agree, but it is a weird observation. But saying that, a lot of Magic players become poker players afterwards, or vice versa.
Yeah,
because
there's a lot of professional Magic players that used to be poker players. It's similar kind of skills.
Yeah.
But I think that's probably why, or one of the reasons we haven't seen that many Magic players hop onto Flesh and Blood, is because Magic is, as a card game, is incredibly expensive. It's incredibly taxing mentally. To be good at Magic, or to even be passable, you need to spend a lot of time thinking about Magic, and you don't want to do multiple hobbies that require that.
I think
Flesh and Blood has similar problems. Poker has similar problems. That's why myself personally, I've picked up simpler card games. I play Digimon. I own Vanguard cards, that kind of thing.
I think. Sorry, I was going to say. I think a shame is like you can be good at Magic, but to be top level, you need to Magic needs to be your life. Like
your entire personality.
You know, and I don't think it's a thing of you can on your own become a top player. You need to, I think, have a sponsorship. So your life can become Magic. Like you look at the pros, weeks before a tournament and stuff, they're practicing every day on MTGO. That's their life. That's their job. It's not a thing of I go to work, do my 8 hours at work, come home, practice for 8 hours, go to sleep. It's nope, 16 hours. You're practicing. Next day you get up and practice.
Realistically, when normal-ish people are testing for GPs and stuff, or competitive Magic events.
Yeah.
Realistically, the best we can do is maybe meet up with my friend on a Saturday, come to F&M, maybe something else, and that's almost everything that you've got time for.
I really don't think that's the case though, as to why people haven't, or split time or anything like that.
That's literally what I'm saying. That's why I haven't got into it. It's because I don't need another complicated card game in my life.
But I'm talking super high level, right? I think the only reason I want to go into it is because it segues into another thing I wanted to talk about in the event pricing and events and the structure of how they're running things. I think the reason people are choosing between the two, and I do believe there are a fair few Magic players that have fully hopped into the Flesh and Blood train, and they're just on that now, is because, as far as I'm aware, pricing is significantly better for Flesh and Blood already, and it's only a few years in terms of, because this is a huge problem I have at the moment with WotC, and I've had so many debates and arguments with people about it, is that they could do so much more to help LGSs, in that it costs them no more to print a basic land than it does to print a Black Lotus. I know they're not going to reprint that because it's a reserve list card, but I mean, a Ragavan then. But they don't reprint valuable things. The difference is with Flesh and Blood, for big prize, as an example now, if you qualify in a WPN qualifier, you get a Nixfos shrine to...
If you top 8 WPN, WM, whatever it's called, you get a normal Nixos. If you win, you get a foil one.
So that is what? How much is that? Maybe.
Yeah, most.
No, but I mean the card in non-foil, in a standard.
A normal Nixos is £20.
Okay, so you're talking about a £20 promo. Flesh and Blood, for these qualifying events, you get a cold foil version of a card that is actually potentially useful.
I was going to say that. Even looking at weekly tournaments, you win a Magic weekly, you win an F&M for Magic. What do you get? You get some packs, maybe a promo pack with something in it.
Yeah, but you pay for the packs.
Yeah, you pay for the packs effectively. Currently, though, the price support for weekly Flesh and Blood is a foil. Is it cold foil? Or is it just
you get foil promos? The winner gets a cold foil promo.
They're playable cards. It's cards the current one is a sword that. Again, runs
I mean that to me is kind of the joke, is that weekly Flesh and Blood give out promos that are worth as much as a promo you would get for winning a fairly large event. Sure. And that is just, that blows my mind. And yes, playmats. Playmats, I understand, they're more expensive to produce. If WotC don't want to spend the money to produce them and ship them, they're an expensive thing to ship, they're large. But cards, I really do not understand why they will not make better promos
do
in
agree.
unique art, so they stand out, so they're more valuable because it's a unique. You know what I mean? It's like
Even looking back at F&M promos, like we had some cracking ones. We had like Path to Exile,
Gitaxian Probe. They were
Seaman
hit and
Vision.
miss though.
yeah.
'Cause
Yeah,
there were
because we had
another
like
like
Ultimate Price, which at
there
the
was
time
some
was good, but
bad standard cards that made them well at sales onto F&M promos as well.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, and I don't think it's something like. Obviously, I'm ranting about it now because I'm a fairly new Magic player. It's obviously something that's been a problem for a while, but I don't understand why they don't do more to help the stores and help to foster the communities up. Basically,
Yeah.
like I just think that's.
I think it's partly because Wizards Magic is like the biggest card game, and even if Wizards did something that like pissed off a lot of players, like I don't know, they came out and said
reprinted the reserve list.
no, not reprinted the reserve list. Fuck it, even reprinted the reserve list, a lot of players would be pissed off, a lot of players would leave, but you'd still have a huge amount of players that'd stay.
Yeah, it'd
and
be
play.
hard to piss off
I
the
feel
whole
like
community.
Wizards
Yeah, for sure.
could like just go like F&M, no prizes anymore at all. It's down to LGSs to like dictate prizes, isn't it? It's still down to LGSs to dictate prizes, isn't
Not
it?
promos. Well, yes, promos,
Oh, yeah.
but the
But, like,
promos are sent
even if for
to
like
the
big
LGS.
tournaments, even for big tournaments, Wizards just said, yeah, we're not doing promos anymore. The big tournaments would still happen, people would still play, and I think it's because Wizards is so big. I think maybe Flesh and Blood have to like do this extra prizing, is because they're brand new. They need to try and get the players. It'd be interesting to do this podcast again in say 5 years if Flesh and Blood makes it big, and
but I'd
see
argue as
where
well
Flesh
that
and Blood is doing with
Yu-Gi-Oh still
prizes.
do good promos.
Do
And
they?
Yu-Gi-Oh's promo, not necessarily like regular, but their promo stuff is a lot cooler than Magic. Like, I think it's one of, and that's a game that's been around for.
I don't know. I remember like, so this is back when working here. If you bought X amount of Yu-Gi-Oh product, you got a Lost Art promo. But
Oh, I more
think it
mean
was
like the
one or two of them are
promo
playable.
boosters,
The
right?
OTS packs.
The OTS packs, yeah.
Are the OTS packs? I can't quote on this. 'cause I
I've
don't
never
know
opened an
about
OTS pack myself. I've got no idea.
It'd be quite interesting to ask a Yu-Gi-Oh
As
player.
far as I'm aware, the financial value of like sealed OTS packs is incredibly high in comparison to a Magic promo pack.
Fair enough.
That's kind of what I'm gauging it from. In very limited knowledge, so I may be wrong there.
Yeah.
But I kind of feel that.
But like, look at Pokemon. Like, I don't think they get any support, or it's nowhere near
I
like
don't know.
decent at all.
I don't know.
A lot of the Pokemon like pre-release promos are worth infinite money, especially the old ones. But yeah, a lot of them. I think it's probably less
that's
actual
'cause-
support and stuff.
Aren't the pre-release promos for that guaranteed?
They're semi-set. Yeah, they're not
Semi-set,
like any rare or mythic in the set like Magic is. They're just a certain.
Because
number.
Magic used to be like guaranteed. Like, I've got a promo Worm Coil because for like Scars of Mirrored.
Yeah, it was everyone got that as the F&M promo. Emrakul was the same, big Emrakul.
I think that's the
I
thing.
remember that. You get like a dated one. Sorry.
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is,
No,
this is actually, no, I agree with you. So ages ago for Magic, I remember this. I was unfortunately there only for like kind of the shit ones. But the week after the set came out, or like the release night of the set for an F&M, everybody got a promo card from that set. It was a different artwork, it was foil, it had the date of the release date. Ages ago, they were like, Emrakul.
Well, the release day promos always sucked. Emrakul was a pre-release promo.
Oh, pre-release promo. Okay, yeah,
well,
but like, there's stuff like that. Now there isn't.
But they have the ability to do it because they do it in collector's boosters, right? So, like, you know, Double Masters 22, they only did a very select treatment of borderless cards, and 90% of them are high-value cards. They could just do that with the promos. They could pick the valued cards from a set, even 5 sets ago. Like, it doesn't have
It's
to be the
very-
latest
Yeah.
set. Like,
Sorry, this is another thing I've with Magic that I'm finding more and more frustrating, is that the different types of rarity. So I know everything's still uncommon, mythic, rare, but like you've got a borderless rare, you've got an alt art, you've got etched, you've got foil borderless. It's just so many. It's like, it feels a bit excessive.
Flesh and Blood have started doing it.
Oh yeah, fuck.
To be fair, it has destroyed the price of normal printings of cards, which is, I think,
Good.
a benefit.
Yeah.
Because like regular foils, I got it's just
They're
regular
just the same
regular
price,
foil
isn't it?
mythics are basically the same as normal mythics. Because why would you get a regular foil mythic if you could get the borderless one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you want to pimp it out, you get the borderless foils or the etched foils or the textured foils or whatever. Like the normal foil from a set piece that may be worth. It's valueless.
I'd like to know, does it affect how many are in circulation? Does that mean there are more in circulation of that card, or have they? So say before there was like 100 of this mythic in circulation. Is it now there's 150 because there's different types, or is it now that like 50 of them are regular?
No. There will be more. They'll be more extended.
Okay, that's quite good. I think that's good for the game then.
Yeah. I mean, it drives, as you say, it drives the price of the normal cards down. I think the main thing though is like it staying away from like booster packs. It's just that prize support that Flesh and Blood, and like I genuinely believe, and I may be wrong because they may have had it planned for years, but I do not think WotC would have brought back the Road to the Pro Tour had Flesh and Blood not been knocking on that door, basically copying what they did and doing it to a great success. Because I don't know if you saw videos of kind of the Flesh and Blood fests or whatever they call, they're called. As far as I'm aware, they are as big as Magic Fest. Like, you know what I mean? They are filling out.
I saw a picture of one hosted in the same place, and it looked like I had to double check it wasn't
Magic.
It's Channel Fireball.
Yeah.
They were advertising it, and I looked at pictures. Like, I didn't know GPs were back on. I was like, oh, this is Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
So like they are as big.
I think
they are huge. Like Star City Games on their website advertises the two different kind of events they do, and they do big Magic events and big Flesh and Blood events.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's. I want to actually like throw a spanner in the works here and say that I am actually considering selling out of Flesh and Blood a bit and playing it less because I've been playing more Magic and I've been enjoying it more. In that I do actually think Magic is a better game.
Yeah.
And the reason I think that, and again, it's a controversial thing because I've been harping on about how good Flesh and Blood is, and I genuinely believe they will be the biggest competitor to Magic, and they will continue and do very well. It's the four card hand size. I do not like. It does
hurt, and the best of one hurts as well.
The best of one and the no mulligans, and it brings so much more of an element of luck to the game.
It does.
That I don't like.
I stopped playing Magic for a little bit. I need to practice for the WPN for Athena Games coming up, but because when I got into Magic, I obviously was terrible. And I'm still terrible, but when I got into Magic, I was really terrible. And I could see myself getting better. And of late, I've come to the point where I'm not really seeing myself getting better, but not seeing myself getting worse. And I just wanted to have like the same kind of dopamine
climb
rush.
up,
of I'm terrible at this game, now I'm less terrible.
Sure.
Also, I think for me, Flesh and Blood has been good for that, but Magic is a brilliant game still.
I don't know what it... the main reason I like it is at the end of the day it saved me money, and I know that's ridiculous given how much money I spent on Flesh and Blood, but that is a genuine illustration of how much cheaper it is than Magic.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like the boxes are cheaper, the packs are typically cheaper, the cards are almost always cheaper.
Also are now in recyclable paper.
Yeah, everything the company
massively.
are doing is
so
great.
Flesh and Blood packs now come in a weird cardboard, not like
it's
the
like
modern Masters
thick paper.
It's like a waxy cardboard paper thing. So like modern Masters 2 came in cardboard packages. This was amazing because cardboard's recyclable.
But it did damage cards.
Hashtag save the planet.
It damaged cards and they were very easily openable. You got into a lot of cases where people could just pop the top open, take the cards out.
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas these are like
they're
like genuine
foil-esque boosters.
But it's a shame because, like, the first things I'm a Magic player, second things I'm an environmentalist, and I do find it a shame that Magic Gathering cards themselves are not recyclable, and the
packaging isn't.
Not
they are
recyclable
getting
when it could
better.
be.
Like collectors' boxes of Double Masters 22 were cardboard within cardboard rather than shrink wrapped, which is kind of nice. But yeah, I think.
But the pre-release kits, they're so excessive. It's like a cardboard box
within a cardboard
box.
Yeah.
It's just like you
also
cardboard
have
box,
to
shrink wrap it.
You also have to justify like what you're charging for. You have to make people feel special because if it's shit packaging, like
I'm quite bad. Like I'd quite happily Wizards just gave us like boxes in an undescript cardboard box that
I
was
don't
like,
think you would if you were spending £100.
made out of. I think I would be.
But like taking pre-release as an example, not every game does pre-release packs.
Yeah.
And like the whole idea of like, here's your little box, you get to pull the little tab and open up the box, and there's your packs. In some of the other games, Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, just like, there's your packs.
Oh yeah, and the
Well,
promo's
yeah,
the
Flesh and
same
Blood,
for
it's just
everybody.
a box. You
But
just open the
Yeah,
box and just
here's your packs.
hand packs up.
weirdly enough, the pre-release promo in a Magic pack, in a Magic pre-release box, is the weird kind of cardboard paper we're talking
They're in
about.
recyclable
They're in
packaging, yeah.
recyclable packaging. So it makes me think, why aren't Wizards doing this for their normal booster packs?
It costs a lot more.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We've had a heat wave recently, and I don't want that to happen again.
I think like the genuine. We'll kind of start to wrap up here because we've gone way too over.
Yep.
But I think the whole
I want to play some Commander.
the whole advocacy I have for Flesh and Blood and why I want it to do well is it genuinely feels like LSS gives a fuck about players, whereas I
can see
will
that.
happily say that, and I don't care what anyone says. WotC do not fucking care
Do
at all.
LSS have a parent company, or is it just them?
I believe it's just them.
Okay.
Just the
Let's have a
Illuminati.
quick
That's
look as
the Illuminati's their parent
If they do,
company.
that's probably fairly significant because WotC is owned by Hasbro, and Hasbro care about their bottom line. So they're under a lot of pressure from Hasbro to make decisions that maybe they don't necessarily, they wouldn't necessarily do if they were a single self-owned company.
They're all owned by the Illuminati. Legend
yeah.
Studio is there. Illuminati's there. Wizards of the Coast here. Hasbro, Illuminati,
There doesn't appear to be.
Audi.
Okay.
above the
It's hidden
Illuminati.
if it is.
Okay, then that makes perfect sense to why they would be able to do those business practices and why they'd be able to make probably more expensive choices.
They're literally the
because-
publisher, maker, designer.
Yeah,
so
because they're
yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Whereas Wizards have to put everything through Hasbro, and Wizards is not just Magic. Wizards make D&D as well,
Yeah.
and,
And up until recently owned Death Row Records.
and up until recently, Death Row Records. But yeah, like Wizards have a lot of stuff that they need to. It's an expensive company. Like the number of operations that Wizards have is so far and beyond what LSS have to do.
Yeah.
And they've got to report all back to Hasbro and get permission for most things. So
Oh, yeah, they own
it
Transformers
makes
as
sense.
well.
Hasbro and Transformers.
Hasbro. Yeah, I mean Hasbro own fucking
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Like
Well, Hasbro and Transformers, which is why Wizards of the Coast produced the Transformers trading card game.
yeah.
Which was good fun until it
And then
wasn't.
it died. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I think we've gone enough of a rant. I don't think we've come up to any kind of conclusion here about.
Hopefully we got
Flesh and
20
Blood.
minutes of content that Stephen can use.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed this doesn't all go in the bin.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, I think if you are a Magic player and you have the perception that Flesh and Blood is an investment scam and it's all bankers and it's all shady guys in basements
You're
and
correct.
stuff,
Yeah.
you are completely wrong. And what I would say is try the game. And
Yeah.
but buy a Blitz deck, make a Blitz deck, order a Blitz deck online. It will cost you, like, the single cards will cost you a lot, like, next to nothing. Throw a deck together off a net deck, a list.
Yeah,
Buy a Blitz
I own
deck
2
and-
Blitz decks. I've
yeah.
played a couple of games. It's a
and
good game.
just go along. The community is typically great. There is the caveat that it's a lot of pissed off Magic players, so it's still going to have the ups and downs of the Magic community.
There's going to be some toxicity there.
Yeah, as there is with every community. But all in all, it's a fun game, and I'd highly recommend trying it. When I say I'm selling out of it, I'm still going to keep a deck all.
Yeah.
So it's just that I'm probably not going to be able to play it as much, so I have to make that decision of kind of, do I want to spend my time playing Magic or do I want to spend my time playing Flesh and Blood? And for me, because I'm in deep, it's Magic. But I genuinely believe it's a good game, and I think you should try it. And maybe we'll do some video content of Alex trying it,
Maybe
Yeah, for sure.
Flesh and Blood is just a money laundering scheme for the New World Order to fund guerrilla warfare in Fernando Poo and Nicaragua.
And on that note, we will close it there. Thank you very much for watching the Templar Talks podcast. I don't think we ever even introduced him, but we'll give an outro to Simon George. Thank you very much for being on the show, and we'll see you on next month's episode.
The truth is out there, remember that.
Oh, we'll see you for the Rambly.
Oh yes, Rambly stuff. Yes, Rambly things.
Rambly
Lots of
things.
live streams. But in terms of Templar Talks, first of every month, directly onto YouTube from now.
Yep.
So yeah, cool.
Cool.
First of every month, like my